Big stories today with National Editor for The Australian, Dennis Shanahan. Well, great to see you again, Dennis. We've had a couple of days to let this whole nuclear policy from the coalition sink in. I'm keen for your assessment about not just how it's been received in Canberra, but how you see Labor's response. Certainly the early childish memes we saw go out on social media in the first couple of days. There's not been a real serious attempt before today. Today, of course, they got into the costings debate. But how do you think Labor's tackling this big push by Peter Dutton?
Well, Peter, and welcome back. Look, I have written online in The Australian today that I find it hard to believe that after almost 2 years of Peter Dutton saying that he was going to have a nuclear debate and that he was going to propose putting nuclear sites at coal-fired power stations. We've known this has been coming, and yet the reaction from the government has been a bit incoherent, and it hasn't been, concentrated. It's lacked a focus. What it has said is that, apart from all the childish memes and so on, is it's about cost, that it's economically insane. It can't be, just can't be pursued, and it's not worth the money. There has been some suggestion from Murray Watt in particular that it may not be safe. Now, of course, because we've got a decision which the Albanese government is pursuing to have nuclear submarines, all of these arguments are compromised. They can't say it's safe in a nuclear submarine and not safe on land. So there are real problems here for Labor how to sell it. So what they're concentrating on is the cost. They're saying it is too much and that the market wouldn't support it. Well, why not let the market actually make a decision? Lift the ban and say, will people invest? If they won't, the market's decided.
I think that's in part what Labor was trying to do with this appointment of Matt Kean to the role as chair of the Climate Change Authority. I think they don't have a reasonable, rational argument against nuclear. I mean, it's there in most G20 nations. I was overseas, and most of the nations I was in had no problems with power on a hot day because they use nuclear. So they've got an issue there. Your argument there about submarines is absolutely valid. So they're changing the conversation. They're trying to start a war inside the Liberal Party with his appointment of Kean. Kean, I might add, is in the New South Wales Parliament until August. I find it bizarre, if not very unorthodox, that he's taken this new job. And, of course, he's got a natural conflict of interest, hasn't he, Dennis? If he was to ally this government role with maybe making money out of the renewable sector in a commercial role as well at the same time.
Well, obviously, this was a highly political appointment. Matt Kean has been unpopular with Liberals in New South Wales for a while. He's also inconsistent. There have been times when he's been pro-nuclear, he's now anti-nuclear. He said the shutting down or the keeping open, of the Uraring power station would cost $3 billion. Chris Minns came in, had a quick check and said no, rejected the whole idea. So here is Chris Minns, the New South Wales Labor Premier, rejecting what the previous Energy Minister had said about a coal-fired power station. And today, the Energy Minister, without any public consultation, it was a captain's call. Chris Bowen appoints him as the Tsar in Canberra. And as you say, this is it's not a full-time job. So he does have to be careful about what he does. And the standard of the previous three leaders, as my colleague Jeff Chambers has pointed out in The Australian today, is much higher than a professional, first of all, political staffer and then politician. It is designed to be a distraction and a division for the Liberals. I don't think Peter Dutton is falling for it, and I think he is keeping the focus on what he sees as cost of living, reducing the cost of energy in the long term with nuclear and in the short term with gas. You've got to remember, Peter Dutton put up a dual policy, more gas than Labor is proposing and long-term nuclear energy.
This next election, regardless of all of this talk about nuclear power, will be about cost of living. I mean, I have not moved off that view. It will be absolutely bread and butter economic issues. And yet they've got the government out there today announcing a $200,000 pay rise for the new Governor-General. Her salary will be just over $700,000. I think it's about 45% more than the current Governor-General. I don't care how they try and justify it. I don't think you can justify it. I think at the time it comes out as people are doing it tough, it's a shocking look.
Well, today in Parliament, Tony Burke was talking about workers getting a $38 a week rise as a result of tax cuts and pay increases. And yet the government is approving a $200,000, 43% pay rise for a Governor-General, and this is by a Republican Labor government, and it is insensitive to say the least, with Jim Chalmers today saying, we know people are doing it tough, we know the cost of living has to be addressed. Look, Anthony Albanese won the last election on cost of living. We all remember him carrying around that dollar, and it was talking about what people would get out of the Albanese government. Well, you know, what they've got today is a weak economy, the prospect of ongoing high interest rates, and a Governor-General getting a $200,000 pay rise to go with two houses, a plane, and laid on board and living. And that house, one of those houses, is just the best house in Sydney. So let's just think about the insensitivity of this action. It looks bad. They're trying to justify it by adjusting it with the High Court. You know, she has to get more, apparently, than the Chief Justice of the High Court from a Republican government. Please.
I think they're scrambling, Dennis. I think this is the stuff that cuts through. Thank you. Great to have you on the show as always.